On today's show, we're talking about Jon Gray's very lofty goals, Josh Smith's super utility ability, and Austin Hedges' butt? All that and more on this episode of Locked On Rangers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Rangers, your daily Texas Rangers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are locked onto the Texas Rangers, the first and best daily Rangers podcast. I'm Bryce Patrick, a cripplingly addicted Texas Rangers fan, covering this team for 11 seasons, including all 6 as the founder and host of this podcast. Thank you all so much for making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. If you're not already, you can follow me on Twitter at Bryce Patrick. You can follow the show at Locked On Rangers. Hit subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform and on YouTube, where the best way you can help grow the show is to comment nearly any single thing below. Now, on today's show, we're talking about Jon Gray, his lofty goals that might even be loftier than Adolis Garcia's lofty goals for this season, where Josh Smith is actually going to play, getting some more hints from Bruce Bochy, and of course, we're talking about the cheeks of former Texas Rangers great Austin Hedges. Let's get into Jon Gray, what he did yesterday, his first start of the spring, going a couple of perfect innings, I should say, with one strikeout, fastball looking fine, slider looking fine, wanting to put a little bit more of an emphasis this year on his other pitches, his fastball and his slider last year. The slider, one of the best sliders in baseball. Fastball, honestly, one of the worst fastballs in baseball in terms of run value. The metrics on it just are not kind to Jon Gray. The velocity's good, but everything else about it has not been super fantastic. That slider is an absolutely lethal pitch, but when you're just a two-pitch pitcher as a starting pitcher, it makes things a lot easier on opposing hitters. And one of the things that Jon Gray talked about this year, wanting to fix, wanting to improve on, is trusting that changeup and the curveball a little bit more. Last year, he threw 44% four-seam fastballs, 44% sliders, 7% changeups, and 3% curveballs. That needs to change. The slider usage can stay right about where it is, but the fastball usage just needs to come down. It just does. He needs to trust that changeup and that curveball just a little bit more. The changeup was a fine, not great pitch, just needs to trust it a little bit more to lefties. The curveball, I think, is a good pitch. He just doesn't trust it nearly enough. He only threw 74 curveballs last year, the entire season, and that cannot be the case next year. He's shelved the sweeper as of this year. I think that is a good move for him. I think that this is a pitch that I don't know if any Rangers throw sweepers anymore. Gray was the only one who did. Keith Meister, the Rangers team doctor, who is the foremost elbow specialist in the nation, has talked about the sweeper's inverse impact on elbows, how it's a pitch that he thinks leads to a lot more elbow injuries, UCL tears, things like that. So Gray has ended up shelving that pitch. So he is just a 4-pitch pitcher at this point, no longer using a sinker. Maybe he could bring that back just a little bit more, just to give a different look than that 4-seamer. But he was even more fastball and slider reliant in this first game than he wanted to be. He said the reason for that was because he couldn't really land his changeup and curveball for strikes often enough. So he just stuck with what was working, and what was working was the fastball and the slider. 2 shutout innings of work. Pretty good. I mean, a couple of hits probably should have squeaked through if not for the stellar defense of Jonathan Ornelas there playing third base in this game. The Rangers' defensive line was a little interesting in this one, with Josh Smith playing center field. That's right, Josh Smith playing center field. Something that he has done in the minors. I don't know if he's done it in the major league, but he's played a lot of different positions defensively. He is going to be a super duper utility infielder or utility player. I'd say a super utility player plays 5 positions. I think super duper is when you play 6 or more. So in today's game, right after starting a game in center field, Joshua H. hits real good, all-star, silver slugger, Pookie Smith is going to be playing first base right after playing center field. They can also play some shortstop, and also play some second, and also play some third, and also play some left, and also play some right. Basically everywhere but pitcher and catcher, and who knows, maybe they'll throw him out there at pitcher just for funsies. I honestly don't know who the Rangers would use as their emergency catcher at this point on the roster. Maybe it is Josh Smith, maybe it is. I honestly don't know who else it would be if it wouldn't be. I actually have just genuinely no idea who is the emergency catcher on this team. Every team has one of a guy who is just a regular position player who has maybe played catcher at least once in his career, and if all heck breaks loose, can just jump back there and catch okay. Maybe it is Josh Smith. Maybe he does just have some spare catcher's gear lying around because, why not? Why not go full Isaiah Kiner fluff? Except I don't even know if IKF has played center field, let alone, very much the outfield in his big league career. But Smith is going to be playing quite a bit this year, not taking a step back like I thought. I thought he'd be playing significantly fewer games this year. He had a multi-hit day, had a double, had a walk, had an RBI in a just one of the weirder spring training games we've seen, a 9-run first inning, and nobody scored again until the bottom of the 8th inning. We'll talk more about that later on after we talk about Hedges' butt and an ostrich egg. Yeah, an ostrich egg. We'll get to it in a second. But according to Bruce Bochy, Smitty's going to play about 5-6 times a week. That's a lot. That is a whole lot for a super duper utility player. Michael Young is kind of the comp there, except Michael Young didn't play the outfield. He was just a super utility guy, playing every single infield spot, also being the Rangers DH in 2011 with the addition of Adrian Beltre. Michael Young was just a plug-and-play, literally everywhere kind of guy, and Smith is going to be like that, except I don't know that Smith is going to hit 300 or lead the league in batting average like Michael Young did at times. He has won a Silver Slugger. His next goal is a Gold Glove at the utility position, which is, I think, possible, more than possible for Josh Smith. And even though the defensive metrics don't grade him out as an above average fielder, I have no idea why. I mean, in terms of his outs above average, he's in the 38th percentile, -1 outs above average in terms of his fielding. Last year, the arm strength at 37th percentile, he doesn't need elite arm strength, but I think he's got a little bit better arm strength than that. And the outs above average, I don't know what that stat is actually looking at when it comes to Josh Smith. Sometimes I think that stat is more accurate than others. Defensive metrics in general are just honestly kind of a crapshoot at times. Sometimes it feels like they're really seeing exactly what I'm seeing, exactly what the naked eye is seeing of, okay, this guy is really, really good, and we're capturing that. But with Smith, I mean, the amount of plays that he makes that others don't, I mean, the amount of times last year at third base where he just ranged back into the outfield, it went way further back than you would think a third baseman can to go make a play on one of those dying line drives that usually just plops right in there in shallow left field for a hit. Smitty made a bunch of those plays ranging back, and also, big ranging plays, to his right towards foul territory of uncorking big old throws and making diving stops at third base and charging plays, charging bunts or just weak little dribblers, not unlike Adrian Beltre, not exactly like, but not unlike Adrian Beltre. This guy plays great defense no matter where he is, and playing great defense at, 3 positions, let alone 4 or 5 or 6 or 7, like Josh Smith is going to play. That's tough. That is a tough thing to do, and it is a valuable skill. And after the offensive season that he had last year, I know about the fall off in the second half, but the first half, you don't put up those kinds of numbers. You don't put up an 861 OPS and 10 home runs in 90 games by accident. You don't luck into that. That's real. That's actual performance. That is something that I think he can repeat. Maybe not for an entire season, but, OPS north of 800 for a full season, I think is very much on the table for Smith. And not to mention, last year was a down year for offense. I mean, his slash line at the break in those 90 games, 293, 392, 469, 10 home runs, 5 stolen bases, and 861 OPS. Oh yeah, while playing a bunch of different positions and playing them well defensively. I've said this a lot this offseason that Josh Smith is an everyday player. That is the kind of player that he is. He is that good. He is capable of starting every single day on a team that is in contention. That is a role 6 player in terms of the 20 to 80 scale, or I guess 2 to 8 scale. A 5 is everyday, a fringe big leaguer. That's what a 5 is. Role 7, multi-time All-Star. Role 8, MVP. There's not a lot of role 8s. Rangers have quite a few role 7s, and you need a lot of role 6s to have a championship caliber team. everybody who the Rangers had starting every day in that 2023 run is at least a role 6 player. And Josh Smith is that. He is at the very least a 2 to 3 WAR player. You need a lot of those guys to win a championship, especially if one of your all-stars goes down. You hope that doesn't happen. You hope that Josh Smith is just playing his way on this team and just giving more guys time off. I think that is going to be a big emphasis on this team, is just giving more guys time off. I think we're going to see a lot more off days for Marcus Semien. I think we're going to see a lot more off days, or at least half days, for Corey Seager. I think Josh Young is going to see some more off days. Maybe we'll see a lot more off days for Evan Carter. I don't think that Wyatt Langford's going to need too many days off, but maybe even some more half days for Adolis Garcia out there in the outfield. And the Rangers are going to have to play somebody out there defensively when those guys are DHing or just taking the full day off. And Josh Smith is right there. He is right there, and I think he will play a significant role. I'm happy to see that he is going to, continue to, build on what he did last year, and the Rangers don't think, yeah, it's completely a fluke, we're just going to keep him on the bench, and that's going to be that. No, they say, hey, this guy's good. This guy can help us win. This guy is going to be our super duper utility infielder and going to help us hopefully win that second championship. But a guy who didn't start every day and helped the Rangers win a championship, Austin Hedges. There was a great feature about him by Ken Rosenthal, The Athletic, and we're going to talk about some key highlights from that 2023 World Series run that were revealed we did not know before, including about an ostrich egg, and we did know a little bit about Hedges' butt. We learned a little bit more. We'll talk about all that and more right after this. Shout out to the Aviators making Locked On Rangers your first listen every single day. Back on tomorrow's show, talking about Kumar Rocker's first start of the spring. Hopefully, we'll see some greatness. Hopefully, we'll see some rock balls, some strikeouts, and just some good vibes from the Rangers' top pitching prospect on the hill. Now, this feature in The Athletic about Austin Hedges, just some delightful little nuggets there, some of which we already knew, some of which we did not know. This came out, I believe it was yesterday, in The Athletic, talking about the impact of Austin Hedges, what he brings to a team, and, trying to quantify that unquantifiable vibes that he brings to a team. There were a lot of little nuggets there, including one about Austin Hedges riding the Rangers' magic number of wins to win a World Series on his booty cheeks throughout that World Series run. I believe that one became a little bit of common knowledge, mainly because Bruce Bochy let it slip after the Rangers. They ended up sweeping the Baltimore Orioles, as you all remember. But in the post-game celebration, before they ended up popping the champagne, Bruce Bochy said, I just got one question. Hedgie, what's the number on your butt? Except he did not say butt. And so, of course, that led reporters to ask, okay, what are we talking about numbers on Hedgie's butt? And it came out that Austin Hedges was writing the number of wins the Rangers needed to win a World Series on his booty cheeks every single game. During that run, he would come out there in the hitters' meetings, and he would be an active part of the Rangers' hitters' meetings throughout that run whenever he was acquired from the Pittsburgh Pirates for international bonus pool money. The best use of international bonus pool money the Rangers have had the last, they have signed Sebastian Walcott in the last 3 years, so maybe the second best use of international bonus pool money that the Rangers have used the last couple of years was acquiring Austin Hedges. And in this article, it talks a lot about how Hedges was an integral part of hitters' meetings. They wanted him to be a part of there. And Hedges was like, okay, why? I'm literally the worst hitter. But it was for the vibes. It was to bring home the point. He would meet with the hitting coaching staff to integrate, drive home what their points were. He had full creative reign to do whatever he wanted. And one of the most interesting things that he ended up doing had to do with an ostrich egg. Now, this is a quote from the story. At one point in September, Hedges noticed people on social media posting a fake speech by Dan Campbell in which Detroit Lions head coach said he ate ostrich eggs for breakfast, drawing the strength from, quote, dino protein. Hedges adapted the speech to baseball, and the players loved it. Donnie Ecker, the Rangers' hitting coach or offensive coordinator / bench coach at the time, seeking to extend the bit, then purchased an ostrich egg in New Mexico for about $350 and presented it to Hedges. Now, Hedges, loving a good bit. One of the reasons I love Hedges is because I, too, love myself a good bit. And he fully ran with this. He embraced the ostrich eggs. He kept it around everywhere. He brought it to all the hitters' meetings. He talked about Oscar, the theoretical ostrich, in the egg. Yes, he did name the theoretical ostrich offspring in the egg. He brought it to games. He had it on the bench. He had it everywhere. He had it everywhere. Just bringing this little egg around as inspiration, talking about how it is so integral to everything that they were doing. And you may remember the Rangers' vibes were quite terrible at one point. Not that long before the Rangers went on that run in the postseason. I don't know exactly when they bought this egg, but if I were a betting man or a guessing man, I would say probably after that Astros series. That had to be when the vibes changed. The Rangers had lost basically every game in September at that point. I mean, losing I believe it was the first 3 games of that Twins series. No, it was just a 3-game series, but everything felt awful. The Rangers had that walk-off home run by El Bombi on September 3rd. Then they headed into that Astros series at home. Nathan Eovaldi's back. Max Scherzer's back. Everything's going to be great. And then everything was crap. And the Rangers got destroyed. Then Evan Carter came up. They lost that game on Friday to the A's and then proceeded to go on a phenomenal run, just barely squeaking into the postseason. But I would guess that September 7th, if it were me, I think that's when the ostrich egg made an appearance, because the Rangers started hitting like crazy after that, or just better than they were, which was not a particularly high bar. And then heading into that final weekend series against the Mariners, the Rangers dropped the first 2, and they needed to win just 1 game to assure themselves of a postseason spot. And before that game on Saturday against the Mariners, where the Rangers ended up winning 6-1 and clinching their first postseason spot since 2016, the hitters looked at Hedges and said, hey, how about we sacrifice that ostrich egg for a greater cause? And Hedges said, oh, heck yeah, I'm all in, and smashed the thing with a freaking hammer. Apparently, that is all very true. Apparently, Austin Hedges has a video of it on his phone, and that is the kind of thing that Austin Hedges brings to a club, the vibes. That is the kind of thing that the Rangers were missing in 2024 that they had in 2023. I mean, just the fiery inspiration that Hedges had, having a programmed button on the pitch comm that says, F yeah. He said whenever a pitcher would throw a great pitch, he'd hit the F yeah button. He wouldn't say what pitch he's calling first, but after they threw a good pitch, just that positive reinforcement that Austin Hedges brought. I mean, those are the kind of vibes that the Rangers really needed last year. It just felt like a very stale clubhouse, and I think that bringing in guys like Jock Peterson, bringing back Nathan Eovaldi, hopefully having a little bit more boisterous Josh Young in the mix, which I think he is most definitely going to be. I don't know how boisterous necessarily Jake Berger is, but he seems to fit the vibes precisely what the Rangers need. I don't know if Kyle Higashioka is going to be writing magic numbers on his booty cheeks, but maybe he will. Who knows exactly what's going to be necessary. But I think that hearing stories like that about Austin Hedges, and you see, oh my gosh, the guy who's the worst hitter in Major League Baseball over the last 20, 30 years in terms of offensive production. He's getting $4 million, $5 million every single year. I mean, that's why. That's the kind of vibes that Hedgie brings to a clubhouse. That's the reason why I thought, if the Rangers did have that extra roster spot where they could have used a third catcher, or if Jonah Heim was coming off maybe a better season offensively, then I would have loved for the Rangers to bring back Austin Hedges on the $4 million deal. I mean, heck, he's making about as much as Jonah Heim is making this year, but those clubhouse vibes, they are impossible to quantify, but hearing stories like that kind of show you, okay, this is what that means. This is the kind of impact that a player can have on a team, even when he's not playing. I mean, just the infectious spirit. I mean, every time that they would show a camera shot in the Rangers dugout during that postseason run in 2023, I mean, Austin Hedges was doing something silly, something ridiculous, something absolutely joyful. We're a team full of a little bit of baseball robots who just had that little extra spark with him and Adolis Garcia bringing the swag on the field. I mean, that is the kind of thing that propels a team to that kind of a magical run that the Rangers had in 2023. I mean, they don't do that without Austin Hedges. They really don't. It is impossible to quantify what that means, but a little bit of ostrich egg here, a little bit of butt cheek riding there. That is the kind of magic that the Rangers are hoping to recreate in 2025, maybe in a little bit different of a way. But I thought that story about an extremely beloved Texas Ranger forever, even though he was only here, maybe the best Rangers rental that they got in the franchise history, all came because of ostrich eggs and some sharp magic marker on some cheeks. Coming up, we're going to talk about what we learned from this game on Monday, Jock Peterson's first jam, and a little bit of bullpen stuff, including Mark Church throwing faster than I thought he did. All that and more right after this. This show is brought to you by FanDuel. When the games tip off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on it than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you missed the opening tip-off and want to bet on a fourth quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. Right now, they've got some odds on Luka Doncic's first game against the Dallas Mavericks. The over-under is set at 30.5 points. The over is at -128. The under -104. I'm very much would be taking that over. They've also got some odds on Luka to record 35 plus points, 10 plus rebounds, 10 plus assists, or a 40-point triple-double at plus 1280. Honestly, the sky's the limit with this guy, and he is very motivated by spite. So I'm thinking that anything is possible with Luka Doncic. Also, anything is possible with FanDuel, because right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Now, let's look at this ridiculous spring training game that happened yesterday. The Rangers dropping 9 whole runs in the top of the first inning, then not scoring again until the top of the 9th inning, and nobody scoring again until the bottom of the 8th. Just a very odd game. A lot of things happening in that first inning, including Jock Peterson's first home run in any kind of Texas Rangers uniform, a 3-run bomb to the opposite field, 103 miles an hour off the bat. Looked pretty darn good off the bat. We also saw an RBI bases loaded walk called on a full count pitch timer violation. I don't think I have ever seen that before. We saw quite a few challenges of the automatic balls and strike zone system that were overturned or upheld. I mean, a lot of challenges there. Saw a multi-hit day for Josh Smith. We saw a home run for Abimelec Ortiz, who was playing the outfield. Jonathan Ellis with some great defensive plays. And we also saw, if you're playing along on your bingo card, I don't know if this was the case for you, but we did get that rare bingo square of guy who I have never heard of playing in a Texas Rangers uniform. Not just guy who I didn't know was a member of the Texas Rangers, but guy who I have literally never heard of before entering a spring training game for the Texas Rangers. The recipient of this was Nolan Hoffman, who pitched the 8th inning for the Rangers wearing number 72, a 27-year-old who was originally drafted by the Seattle Mariners in 2018, 5th round pick out of Texas A&M. Still never heard of him. Last year was with, I don't even know who this is, NOR, whoever NOR is in AAA. He had a 3.88 ERA as a reliever, significantly less than a strikeout per inning. But he had 3 strikeouts in this one, no walks, couple of hits, including a run given up. But Mark Church was the story that I wanted to focus on this one. I mean, here's on Garabito. Shout out to him for a couple of scoreless innings without allowing a hit, just 1 walk and 4 strikeouts. He looked pretty darn good there. Jesse Chavez in his first spring action with the Rangers. Sean Armstrong also in his first spring action for the Rangers. But Mark Church dialing it up on the radar gun. That is what I noticed in the 9th inning. Did give up a couple of runs, a couple of hits, and a walk. Only 1 strikeout to the final batter that he faced. But that walk is what I want to focus in on, because that's where Mark Church was really ratcheting up that velocity, touching as high as 98.4 miles an hour on the radar gun with that fastball, and the slider all the way up to 91.7 miles an hour. Now, that slider is his most dangerous pitch, and the fastball usually averages around 96 miles an hour, so jumping all the way up to 98.4 isn't all that surprising, but doing it this early in the spring kind of turning my head a little bit. Kind of looking, okay, Mark Church, Rangers don't have really any elite velocity in this bullpen right now. I mean, there's just not a lot of it. There's good swing and miss stuff. These are a lot of, I think, pretty good relievers that we're going to see out there in Chris Martin, in Sean Armstrong, in Hoby Milner, in eventually Josh Sborz. Whenever he gets back, Sborz has got the most velocity of anybody who's going to be hopefully in this pen. I don't know exactly where Luke Jackson is in terms of his velocity, but it's usually around 94, maybe averaging 95. That's about the most velo that the Rangers have in this pen. So if Mark Church can, crank that stuff up all the way up into the upper 90s, if he can start averaging around 96, 97 miles an hour with that just disgusting slider, if that slider can sit in the 90s, especially, hit all the way up to basically 92 on the gun, that is very, very impressive from a pitch that is already incredibly good, even when it's in the upper 80s. This is a very, very good slider, and adding that velocity on it is definitely something to keep an eye on for sure. I mean, other than that, there just wasn't a whole lot from this game, a whole lot of, sloppy pitching from the White Sox. I mean, I know that's shocking, the White Sox doing something sloppily. We also did get some more things on the bingo card of a pitcher exiting the game early and then coming back in the next inning, because old Smithy boy, starter for the Chicago White Sox, could not finish out that first inning. He was just too erratic. Shane Smith, I should qualify, out of Wake Forest, it just pitched an inning in 2/3, but gave up 4 runs, just 1 hit, 3 walks, just could not get out of his own way. The Rangers could not stop putting runners on base in that first inning, just piling on the runs. That's the most runs I've seen in a first inning game in quite some time. And then at the very end of this game, Abimelec Ortiz getting his first home run of the spring in the 9th inning, going back to back with Jax Biggers, who went yard behind him. So Abimelec and then Biggers right after him, pouring on a couple of runs to make it an 11-3 final. Good stuff all around from the Rangers in this one, but Jon Gray talking about 200 strikeouts, 200 innings. Those are his goals for this year. That's a lofty goal for Jon Gray, and I think even a little bit loftier than Adolis Garcia's 50 home run hopes, because Jon Gray has never eclipsed even 180 innings. He has only eclipsed 180 strikeouts twice in his career. He did 185. That was his career high, his first full season of the big leagues. Pitched 168 innings, 185 strikeouts back in 2016. And then his career high for innings pitched, 172 in the third innings in 2018, and 183 strikeouts that year. He also had an ERA north of 5, but that was a lot in part due to Coors. Now, if the Rangers can just get 30 starts out of him, he's only eclipsed 170 innings once in his career. That was 2018. Other than that, even eclipsing 150 is not a surefire guarantee for Jon Gray. Getting him healthy this year, keeping him healthy for the entirety of this year at age 33, maybe that happens. I mean, the Rangers haven't had a guy throw 200 innings in quite some time. I don't know that the Rangers have had anybody throw 200 innings in a season since Lance Lynn and Mike Minor in 2019. I don't know that anybody is. I'm very confident that nobody has hit the 200 strikeout mark since Mike Minor in 2019. The just funniest way for him to go about getting that 200 strikeout. If you remember the drop ball in foul territory when the Red Sox were literally just trying to prevent that in game 162. They just did not want Mike Minor to get that 200 strikeouts. They were swinging at every first pitch, and he dropped one, and just the chirp back that he had to a Boston sports columnist of "ask me if I care, buddy," of him being theoretically should have been embarrassed, according to this Boston sports personality, that he dropped that foul ball instead of actually going for the out, just going for the strikeout. One of my favorite moments in that incredibly weird 2019 season. But if anybody is going to go 200 strikeouts, 200 innings on this staff, I feel like Nathan Eovaldi is the safest bet for that in terms of just getting that workload. Maybe Evo isn't going to go 200 innings. He has not gone 200 innings. I don't know if he has even done 200 innings once in his career, Eovaldi. We've seen Jacob deGrom do it quite a bit, but I very much doubt that he's going to be allowed to go 200 innings. I have literally negative 100% sure that Kumar Rocker is going to go 200 innings this season. Maybe Cody Bradford is the one who ends up going 200 innings, and is he going to go 200 strikeouts? Maybe. I don't know. I think 180 strikeouts in 200 innings would be fantastic for Cody Bradford. Just anyone going up over 180 innings this season, I would be thrilled with. If any Rangers starting pitcher goes 180 or more, if they get 2 of them, fantastic. If they get 3 starting pitchers going 180 plus innings, I will be over the freaking moon. I don't care which ones are going 180 plus innings. If anybody on the staff is going, heck, if you get multiple guys going 150 plus, I will be thrilled. I mean, there are just so many durability questions for this staff, and just the effectiveness to be able to go out there for that many innings per start, making that many starts, staying healthy, not missing time. If Jon Gray can go 200 innings, 200 strikeouts, I mean, heck, you might want to sign that guy back this offseason. He is going to be a free agent after this season. If he finishes his Rangers career with the best season of his career, topping those marks, that would be a fantastic way for World Series champion Jon Gray to end his tenure in Texas. That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you all so much for listening and subscribing, and until next time, don't forget to enjoy baseball.